There's a video on this channel where I personally rank every single RobTop level, and it has aged very poorly. In that video, I go as far as to say that Hexagon Force is RobTop's worst level, and that it was disappointing. So I'm going to make it my job today to set things right, and to show Hexagon Force the love that it deserves. Every single main Geometry Dash update, starting from 1.1, so that would be Time Machine, all the way to Dash, has some key characteristics that RobTop will sell you on to make sure that the update is as clear as possible. For Hexagon Force, it would be the addition of dual gameplay and sloped gameplay. Let's take a look at the level Electrodynamics with its iconic mini-ship segment. This is one of the countless times you'll see in RobTop's levels where he creates the illusion that sloped gameplay already existed. The introduction of Hexagon Force reminds me a lot like Blast Processing. This is without a doubt a compliment, considering that Blast Processing was a part of the update that followed, and not only just that, one of the most influential updates in the game. So this is a great start. And if we take away from Blast Processing's introduction, the ability to draw 3D lines, so to add depth to objects, now these two introductions are almost looking the exact same. And on the topic of what's good about Hexagon Force, the gameplay continues the pattern. This is because we're not being forced any slope or dual gameplay this early into the level. Allow the player to naturally discover on their own how seamless this new addition can be. For what we are presented, however, it's great. There's not too much to it, we're in 1.8, but as you know, for the introduction of every single RobTop level, we have to start with the cube, so it's nice and basic. RobTop's aware that he has to slowly ease you into these slopes. Just normal decoration like this isn't going to cut it, so during this ship segment, they're on full display. And on full display, I mean literally. We're not actually going to use these slopes to enhance our gameplay or to spice things up. We're not even going to try and use them to make things easier. It's just some nice, classic ship gameplay, super easy to show how seamless and visually satisfying gameplay can now look. And as you would expect, now it's gameplay with the slopes with this ball, and this was really weird to see for the first time in Geometry Dash. Coming into 1.8, the ball was quite restricted thanks to the lack of slopes, and I don't specify any other game mode. This can still apply to them, don't get me wrong, but for the ball, and this is why I believe RobTop chose it first out of any other game mode, is because now we can change the clicks per second of ball gameplay so much easier now with some of the most satisfying gameplay at the same time. And to make this ball segment even better, we have our first secret coin, which is really satisfying to get. Honestly, I subconsciously go for this every single time I play this level. It's just the better path in my opinion. It may not be easier, but I'm not necessarily trying to get an easy experience out of every level I play. Sometimes it's just more enjoyable. Every single time I'm looking at Hexagon Force under a microscope, I'm finding more things I'm a big fan of, and this cube portion is no exception. If you're a new player, or you just consider yourself a bit more of a casual, timings like this are going to stick out to you. They're a pretty big deal. Do I jump earlier? Do I jump later? I'm not used to being on a slope right now. I don't know where the distance is. We build onto this the further the cube gameplay progresses. For these two platforms right here, I can jump onto the first one and then not click, so I make my way onto the next one. But then for the second platform, can I just let go here, or do I jump? Yes, the majority of players are going to jump here just for their will to survive. They're not used to this level yet. Although think about it, it wouldn't be Geometry Dash without those panic moments. The what the hell do I do here and I forgot what I just practiced. That can now be prevalent more than ever thanks to these new dynamics of angled objects. And on the topic of new things that we have to take into consideration, now we have dual gameplay. Before I take this segment under a microscope, let's actually do the opposite and look at the bigger picture. This would be how there's cube gameplay and how there's ship gameplay. One's symmetrical, whereas the other one's asymmetrical. a major difference within difficulty. Taking a look at how RobTop's introduced us to gameplay in the past, this is uncharacteristic to say the least. I mean, think about it, right? I'm pretty confident that Hexagon Force stands alone for something this crazy. Every single demon came with an easier counterpart, so as players we could get familiar with what's new. Hexagon Force was the only level to introduce dual gameplay, and yet it's this difficult off rip. Now this is a minor change that could have made a major difference for players who dislike Hexagon Force and have a bit of a hard time if they're new to the game. Imagine RobTop made it so the symmetrical ship portion was in front of the asymmetrical cube part. This would have allowed players to progress further before they faced some hardships, and maybe would have allowed players to see the beauty of dual gameplay. Regardless, we start off with the asymmetrical gameplay, and I've really come to appreciate how RobTop subtly hints at a lot of ways you can increase the difficulty. He starts off with something simple, such as spike jumps, one at the bottom, one at the top. RobTop builds onto this concept. At the top, we have some fake spikes, but I don't think anyone's falling for those, as we need to jump on the bottom half before we go crashing into this wall. RobTop then follows that up with one of the best demonstrations to really solidify how advanced dual gameplay can be. The concept of still interacting with a gameplay as your counterpart remains airborne. I mean, this gameplay technique is single-handedly going to be the reason you'll see me skipping out on a lot of levels in Geometry Dash on a more difficult scale. Let's take a look at the level Space Locked. I knew about this level since it released, and that's quite a while ago, and it's only until recently had I beaten the level, because I was so terrified of said asymmetrical gameplay. It just didn't appeal to me at all. It's by definition a skill issue. And the reason why I go into such extensive detail is because for players who are new at the game, this is their Space Locked. This is the level that they're terrified to beat, because as you'll see later in today's episode, this is not the only time we see asymmetrical gameplay. The gameplay continues with more variety. We switch from bottom half to top half gameplay consistently with these spike jumps and this orb jump. We take a little bit of a rest with some symmetrical orb jumps into then more asymmetrical gameplay. I see a lot of new players asking for advice on this segment right here, and I'm sorry, but dual gameplay, for the most part, is not meant to be easy. The challenge in which you're experiencing, the inability of looking up and then looking down very fast, yeah, we've all been there, dude. It's not meant to be easy. With that said, Hexagon Force is not a demon. We need to have some fair, balanced portions. That's in the form of dual symmetrical ship gameplay. Unlike that asymmetrical section where it's just designed to throw you off, for this ship part, for players who are struggling, just cross paths the second you touch the floor in the intro of this ship portion. Then, for the straight flying, you can get a chance to even things out. That then takes you into this part, which I doubt you'll struggle with, right? Plus, you can even hold your head on some of the gameplay. We leave the duel entirely as we go back into cube gameplay, just messing about with some orbs. It's nice, satisfying, traditional, and the only two fakes that we get hit with are blatantly crossed out, and they're together. I would say that this whole segment's purpose is to showcase once again the subtlety of slopes inside your decorations, but oh man, why did RobTop not line up these white lines here? Why are they all jagged? They're not even too, mind you. There's all these minor mistakes. It's not the end of the world, but it's funny. The satisfying orb gameplay then takes us into satisfying mini UFO gameplay, and I'm using this as an opportunity to appreciate every single time RobTop has used the UFO. He makes good UFO gameplay. The mini UFO gameplay starts a bit more open-ended as it then progresses into this Flappy Bird type of segment, just using slopes and having fun with them. The fun has to end eventually, so RobTop challenges us with the most difficult segment on Hexagon Force: asymmetrical mini ball gameplay. We first have to switch paths. Then, as I made mention to earlier, RobTop plays extremely aggressively into the concept of gameplay while your other half is still in the air. I specify aggressively because that's the whole purpose of this portion here. It's the only focal point. This is why players hate this part. This is why players potentially hate Hexagon Force, factors that I played into earlier, but right now it's on full display. We're pretty deep into the level. After we cross paths and our bottom half goes airborne, we have to quickly provide 2 inputs here at the top half. The focal point now changes to the bottom, where we repeat the exact same gameplay. If we keep our composure, that then takes us into a bounce pad on both the top and the bottom half, while we go into symmetrical orb gameplay, symmetrical ship gameplay, and then into singular traditional ship gameplay. This is a clear example of how consistent variety in game modes can not only make levels more difficult, playing into the insane rating, but just make things more enjoyable as well. The orbs are going to remind you exactly like what we played earlier. The straight fly with the mini ship is going to be a mini version of what we once again spoke about earlier, so this is just some nice variety to keep things new. And then as we go into this singular ship, we're now playing into once again a whole new concept. The idea of indirectly being impacted by objects. The difficulty stems from how your natural flying path is going to be completely disrupted. This could, in easier levels, result in just some unintentional auto gameplay, but for the case of Hexagon Force, you're going right into saws, so they're going to kill you. That means in Hexagon Force, we have it accurately depicted to us how slopes can indirectly assist us by staying alive in a dual segment while we still keep on playing the game, and also indirectly harm us by sending us towards danger. Something that isn't dangerous, however, would be the second coin for Hexagon Force. We just have to fly down to the bottom here, it's not too difficult, and then we just hold our head on the ceiling. The cube gameplay that follows picks up the speed, and it also combines every single factor of cube gameplay we've seen up until this point. The orbs, the fakes, the should I jump and should I not moments, everything's here. We change game modes once again, we're back into ship gameplay with symmetrical mini ship gameplay at the slowest speed possible. Why I specify that change in speed is because we just came from a 2x speed, and this is mini ship gameplay we're talking about, on top of being dual gameplay. Sure, it's not asymmetrical, it's symmetrical, but there is precision involved here in one of the most deadliest combinations of a speed change and a game mode. That brings us to the end of Hexagon Force, where with the slopes, we can have these new objects, on top of the fact that we have the final secret coin here. I've always been a big fan of levels that have their third coin at the very end. Club Step, a level that we've spoken about recently, is another great example of this, and I'm a big fan of that coin. A level where it's the complete opposite would be Deadlocked, where after this UFO click pattern, that's it, that's the third coin we've already got in the first two. One of my biggest reasons on why I disliked Hexagon Force is because of the duration of the actual dual gameplay. It was quite shortly lived, until I realized the significance of it, which we just saw in this video. That, on top of the fact that I was overlooking our first ever interaction with slope gameplay. So I'm glad that we took a closer look today.